Julius Caesar. In 44 BCE, Julius Caesar stood at the height of his power. He had been declared dictator for life, a title that alarmed many senators who feared he was becoming a king in all but name. To them, the survival of the Roman Republic was at stake. On the Ides of March 15th, Caesar entered a Senate meeting at the Theater of Pompey. Despite warnings of danger, he attended as usual. Once inside, a group of conspirators surrounded him under the pretense of presenting a petition. Suddenly, the attack began. Caesar was struck first by Julius Caesar, and as he tried to resist, more senators drew their daggers. According to ancient accounts, he was stabbed over 20 times. Among the attackers was Marcus Junius Brutus, a man Caesar had trusted. Some sources say that when Caesar saw Brutus, he ceased resisting, overcome not just by wounds but by betrayal. He collapsed at the base of Pompey's statue, his life ending beneath the shadow of his rival. The conspirators believed they had liberated Rome. In reality, the assassination triggered renewed civil wars. Within a few years, Caesar's grandnephew Octavian emerged as Augustus, the first Roman emperor. The death of Caesar meant to save the Republic, instead marked its end. Abraham Lincoln. On the evening of April 14, 1865, just days after the Civil War had ended, President Abraham Lincoln attended a play at Ford's Theater in Washington, D.C. The mood in the capital was hopeful. Union victory promised peace and reunification. But John Wilkes Booth, a well-known actor and Confederate sympathizer, had other plans. Believing he could revive the Southern cause by striking at the Union's leadership, he devised a coordinated plot to kill Lincoln, Vice President Andrew Johnson, and Secretary of State William Seward. Only Lincoln's assassination succeeded. During the play, Booth slipped into the president's box, carrying a small pistol. At around 10:15 p.m., he fired a single shot into the back of Lincoln's head. Major Henry Rathbone, seated nearby, tried to stop him but was slashed by Booth's knife. Booth leapt onto the stage, shouted a slogan tied to Southern resistance, and escaped into the night. Lincoln was carried across the street to a boarding house where doctors tried in vain to save him. Surrounded by family and government officials, he died the next morning, April 15th. His death shocked the nation. Instead of weakening the Union, it turned Lincoln into a martyr, remembered as the leader who preserved the United States through its greatest trial, Archduke Ferdinand. On June 28, 1914, Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria-Hungary and his wife Sophie were visiting Sarajevo. The Archduke was heir to the throne, and his presence in Bosnia, a recently annexed territory, was deeply resented by Serbian nationalists. Among them was a secret group called the Black Hand who plotted to kill him. That morning, the royal motorcade was attacked. One conspirator threw a grenade, but it missed, injuring bystanders instead. The Archduke insisted on visiting the wounded in the hospital. In a cruel twist of fate, his driver later took a wrong turn onto a side street, where Gavrilo Princip, one of the conspirators, happened to be standing. Seizing the chance, Princip stepped forward and fired 2 shots at close range. Franz Ferdinand was hit in the neck, Sophie in the abdomen. Both died within minutes, their last moments spent together. The assassination was a spark in a Europe already tense with rivalries and alliances. Austria-Hungary, blaming Serbia, declared war. Alliances pulled nation after nation into the conflict. Within weeks, the assassination of one man had ignited World War I, a war that would engulf the globe and reshape the 20th century. Charlie Kirk. On September 10, 2025, Charlie Kirk, the founder of Turning Point USA, was speaking at Utah Valley University. At just 31, he had become one of the most prominent and polarizing figures of American conservatism, shaping debates on college campuses and beyond. That day, he was seated at a "prove me wrong" table, a format he often used to engage directly with critics. In the middle of the event, a 22-year-old man named Tyler Robinson approached. Without warning, he drew a gun and fired. Kirk was struck and fatally wounded before help could reach him. He was only 31 years old. For supporters, Kirk's death was seen as the silencing of a champion for their values. For critics, it underscored the risks of heated rhetoric in an age of division. Across the political spectrum, the assassination forced a reckoning. If violence becomes a response to speech, what future awaits American democracy? Rather than ending an argument, Kirk's assassination became a symbol of the fragile state of civic life in the United States, and a reminder that the future of the nation depends not on bullets but on whether disagreements can still be fought with words. Mahatma Gandhi. On January 30th, 1948, less than a year after India gained independence from British rule, Mahatma Gandhi was assassinated in New Delhi. At 78 years old, Gandhi had spent his life leading India's nonviolent struggle for freedom, becoming a global symbol of peaceful resistance. But his vision of unity between Hindus, Muslims, and other communities was bitterly contested in the wake of partition when violence and mistrust ran high. That evening, Gandhi was on his way to lead prayers at Birla House. As he walked through the garden supported by aides, a man stepped forward from the crowd. His name was Nathuram Godse, a Hindu nationalist who opposed Gandhi's calls for reconciliation with Muslims. Bowing before Gandhi, Godse drew a pistol and fired 3 shots at close range. Gandhi fell, reportedly uttering a prayer before he died. The nation was stunned. Crowds poured into the streets in grief. Leaders worldwide mourned the loss of a man who had inspired movements for justice and freedom across the globe. Godse and his co-conspirators were soon arrested, but the assassination left India without its moral guide at a moment of fragile transition. Gandhi's death was both a national tragedy and a reminder of the enduring power and cost of nonviolence. John F. Kennedy. On November 22, 1963, President John F. Kennedy was traveling through Dallas, Texas, on a campaign trip. Riding in an open-top motorcade with his wife Jacqueline, Texas Governor John Connally, and Connally's wife, he greeted cheering crowds as the car passed through the Dealey Plaza. At 12:30 p.m., shots rang out. Kennedy was struck in the neck and head, while Governor Connally was seriously wounded. The motorcade sped to Parkland Memorial Hospital, but within half an hour, Kennedy was pronounced dead. He was just 46 years old. Authorities quickly arrested Lee Harvey Oswald, a former Marine who had defected to the Soviet Union before returning to the United States. Oswald was charged with the president's murder, but 2 days later, while being transferred to county jail, he was shot and killed by nightclub owner Jack Ruby. The Warren Commission later concluded that Oswald acted alone, though doubts and conspiracy theories have persisted ever since. Kennedy's death shocked the world. For many, it marked the end of America's post-war innocence and ushered in a decade of turbulence. His legacy endures as a symbol of youthful leadership, ambition, and the unfulfilled promise of a presidency cut short. Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe. May we honor the past, respect those we've lost, and carry their lessons into the future.